opening at the top where I think it just sneaks in a little bit.
Yeah.
We have audio. We fixed it.
Good work, Beards.
Thank you.
Did you accidentally mute something?
No, the audio source got deselected for some reason, so I had to reselect that.
I agree with Beards. We did fix this. Good job, Josh.
Thank you, Rudy. Good job by you as well. Let's talk about the Chiefs, though, because we have two very good reasons to. We will talk to our friend David Lesky in an hour. When we talk to him, we won't talk about the Chiefs. We will, in fact, talk about the Royals and also his incredibly good newsletter that he put out today, or late last night, early this morning. I read it today on Inside the Crown. It's just a bunch of gifs of puppies, and then there's a Bobby Witt Jr. home run, and then you can stop reading. A great newsletter for a tough time.
Just actually scroll really fast to the end. One more puppy gif.
Is that true?
Yeah, the very end, there's one more puppy one, and it's actually a bunch of puppies, just kind of like they're just kind of sitting there, and the head's just kind of nodded to the side in unison. You're just like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I was actually reading that, and the reason that I didn't get past the Bobby Witt Jr. highlights because I was watching that, and then we got a Chiefs trade. Chiefs trade. The Chiefs have traded. This is going to shock you. People who know about Brett Veach, it's going to be stunning news. The Kansas City Chiefs traded for a former first-round draft pick, something that Brett Veach just never wants to do.
A quarterback.
No, unfortunately not.
Dang.
A cornerback, though. Some could argue might be a better fit for the Chiefs. Brett Veach loves the reclamation projects, right? DeAndre Baker is the most recent one. He obviously wasn't traded for. He was outright cut because of all the stuff that really wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
That story is bonkers. We can revisit that maybe whenever we get a little closer to the season. Looks like he might get back on the field. But he broke his leg, so obviously his his whole timeline has been jacked up now by the injury he suffered week 17 last year. But you get really ranging from DeAndre Baker back to really in the cornerback room. They traded Parker Anger for Charvarius Ward. They trade up to back into the draft for Bo Pete Keys. You look at the guys that were former high draft picks. Emmanuel Ogbah ended up really paying dividends. Taco Charlton is one of those guys in the process right now. Damian Wilson was where did Damian Wilson
go? From the Cowboys. Or wait, where did he go?
I think he was not quite a.
He was. I want to say it was like a 4th round pick.
I think he was a mid-round pick. I think that's right. I think that one isn't as. Oh, you know who was?
I mean, third day.
Another linebacker. Darren Lee was a 1st-round pick. Did that one work out perfectly? No. Was he a competent player on a good football team? Yes.
Damian Wilson, 4th round pick.
It was Darren Lee that I think I was scratching the surface for there. Again, another 1st-rounder there.
High 1st round pick, too.
Those types of guys, I mean, I think maybe the one even before that, back when they traded for Reggie Ragland, right? Those types of moves, Cam Irving is a good one. Those types of moves always make me happy because, it's a nice little reminder of the fact that we probably shouldn't assume that every single NFL draft pick, much less every high draft pick, is going to turn into a multi-year starter. We all do it. If you're a top 20 pick, nobody the day after the draft says, I think that dude's going to be off the team in 3 years. But it's going to be true about a decent percentage of guys, even taken in the first couple of rounds, even the 1st round, even the top 20 picks. But what the Chiefs did today was trade for former 1st-round cornerback Mike Hughes from the Minnesota Vikings. They had just declined his 5th-year option about a week ago or so, and which is a pretty good indicator of how they were feeling about him. He's had injury issues in Minnesota. He was out of UCF most recently. He only played 2 full college seasons, but he transferred to UCF and played 1 year there, went into the draft, was selected 30th overall, and the Chiefs add this guy to their mix for a 2022 6th-round pick while also getting a 2022 7th-round pick in return. This does not cost you a dart throw. This is not costing you an opportunity to pick a player. This is a move back that is much like what they did to move up to go get Noah Gray in this year's draft. You move back numbers, but you're not actually giving up a full selection. It is as limited a trade swap as you could possibly give up, and for the Chiefs, it's a flyer that makes a lot of sense.
The simple way to think about it is the Chiefs traded back, and instead of acquiring an extra pick, they acquired a player.
Yep.
Like that they essentially traded back in the 2022 draft to pick up a player.
Now, one of the things with getting guys on their rookie deals still who are in that range is a guy who clearly disappointed for his draft stock. One advantage there is getting them super cheap, hopefully for a little while. Because they declined his 5th-year option, he's going into his 4th year this year. This is the last year that he's under a rookie contract. But the Chiefs right now have a lot of guys who are in a very similar spot in terms of their status on the roster right now. You get L'Jarius Sneed, super cheap. Rashad Fenton, super cheap, who will have a he's going into his 4th year? Double check on Rashad Fenton.
Going into his 4th year.
I think this is the last year for Rashad Fenton. Charvarius Ward signed his tender, but he'll be an unrestricted free agent next offseason. DeAndre Baker's a totally wonky story because he's actually released. Yeah. So Fenton will have a 4th year after this then.
One more year for Fenton.
Cool.
Yeah. Wow. 2019 was his rookie year. It feels like he's been here longer than that.
It really does. Yeah, it really does. But so you have all of these guys who are all cheap as things currently stand, and some of them are going to be gone after this year. Some of them maybe they'll extend. What are they going to do with Ward? We'll figure that out as we go. But I really do think that corner, edge, and receiver at various levels still have room for the Chiefs to tinker with. And corner might be the spot that I think has, with edge being a close second here, both of those positions are places that I could see the Chiefs being exploited in some way over the course of the season. Now, does that mean that we're going to go through the schedule later on and you're going to find out that I have them being a 4-win team? No, it does not. I am not that kind of worried about it. But I am thinking, well, whenever they play the Ravens, are they going to be able to keep up with a rejuvenated group of receivers? Are they going to be able to go pressure Josh Allen, right? Those types of things are the things that I think maybe the only ranges on the Chiefs as a team right now where you might be able to say, you know what? I'm not actually convinced that that's going to work out for them. And so continuing to add talent there 1,000% works for me. Specifically with Hughes, in fact, our friend Nick Jacobs at 41 Action News tweeted out his 2018 pre-draft report on Hughes, which I thought was really very clever, very smart to do, and also a nice little insight back into where he was at then. He says, fantastic press coverage corner, very hard jams. He mirrors very well, closes well, but always stays in position because of smooth quarter turns, can play zone and press, tracks the ball really well, gets into position, ideal tackler, aggressive, doesn't hesitate. Those are all things that you would take in any defense, but those are all really things that make sense for Steve Spagnuolo, what he asks his corners to do, to be able to jam at the line, to be a press coverage guy, to get physical there. Spags would love to have that in his toolbox. So that all sounds spectacular. You also have to keep in mind, he struggled to stay healthy really at all in Minnesota. He appeared in 24 games over the course of 3 years. He started 7 games in 3 years, had a couple of picks. They just moved him for a next to nothing pick swap. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to hold all those things in your head at once. This is what, in this case, Nick or what Brett Veach or the Chiefs thought about him before the draft, and this is what the Vikings thought about him today. Those are two very different starting points, but if you're the Chiefs, that pick swap is unlikely to end up being consequential. And if you think that with maybe it's coaching or scheme or usage, or maybe he just had bad injury luck that you don't think is going to continue being an issue, and you think that on that giant range of outcomes, he's something closer to what he was before the draft in your mind, it's absolutely a gamble worth taking. So I say all of that as like a little optimism and a little, I don't know, hesitance to crown him as the Chiefs' new best corner, because also corner is a super volatile position. What I love, absolutely love, is that this is not a 4-man depth chart now.
Yep.
Now, we're going to get back to the top of it here in a second. I'm going to tell you what concerns me. I'm going to tell you about something that was tweeted out by one of our guests on tomorrow night's show, Matt Verderam of Fansided. What I love, though, is because it's a volatile position, because unless you have an absolutely elite of elite player, unless you have literal Jalen Ramsey, you're going to get game-to-game variance, you're going to get year-to-year variance. It's just sort of a part of the equation right now for cornerback play. just a tough, incredibly tough position where you fluctuate. Well, right now, you say, all right, here's what the Chiefs need. The Chiefs need 3 of these guys to be good and also healthy at all times. Charvarius Ward, L'Jarius Sneed, Rashad Fenton, DeAndre Baker, currently rehabbing a broken leg, Mike Hughes, maybe even Bo Pete Keys if you're feeling like maybe he's got some growth to have there. There are 6 guys, and I've got Keys being the last one to the party. He was a flyer, and right now is a special teamer in my mind.
He's part of the group in the sense that he's a corner who I expect on the roster, but a corner who you expect to on a day-to-day basis. I mean, Rashad Fenton struggles to get consistent snaps on a game-to-game basis. It would be crazy to think that and when he does, he plays well typically. But so it'd be crazy to think that Bo Pete Keys is all of a sudden going to just be like this, starting corner for the Chiefs.
Well, and so now let's make it 5. So now you say of those 5 guys, you need 3 to be good and healthy at all times, and you'd love to have a 4th you felt pretty good about.
Yeah,
that's an okay group. That group is not going to have to sign Orlando Scandrick, but or David Amerson.
That hurt thinking about it. Always good tackler.
I'm trying to gauge how long ago this was. I'm not sure if you were here for this, Rudy.
Every time I watch David Amerson give up a catch, he always tackled the guy.
Beards, do you remember how mad I got about David Amerson for 2 weeks of training camp? I just remember having some vitriol, not towards Orlando Scandrick, but to Mo Claiborne, but specifically to David Amerson.
Yeah.
David Amerson really pissed me off for some reason.
Vaguely? I'm trying to remember when it was.
That's fine.
Because he was bad, I assume? I assume that made you mad?
It was because he wasn't very good, and I felt like there was some sort of either dishonesty or bad strategy.
Was it
there.
around that time that did they get rid? Maybe there was a corner that they had gotten rid of. I can't really remember.
I just can't remember either. I'm just envisioning a world without socks, but I can't place anything else.
And David Amerson was the.
I don't know where that came from, guys.
He was the ball hawk who was supposed to replace the other ball hawk.
I just remember being mad about David Amerson for some reason.
Good tackler.
It was probably Marcus Peters
my
adjacent.
question as to when.
It was around then. It was right ahead.
Good tackler though.
Anyway,
I was around for those.
I was so mad about that because it also just felt like a really bad bet.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather see this team gambling on cheap acquisitions for young guys that you loved out of the draft 3 or 4 years ago, not 7 or 8 years ago, but 2 or 3 or 4 years ago that you think, you know what, they haven't fully hit their ceiling yet. Yeah. We think we can bring them in also now. A difference between the David Amerson days, you have a coaching staff that is good for its players, as opposed to actively making them worse on the football field and dropping them into coverage.
And you look
by
at
them, I meant the pass rushers.
You mean that wasn't Justin Houston's preferred position?
No, not in my mind. I don't think it was.
I mean, Justin Houston's going to go in the Chiefs Hall of Fame as one of the all-time great corners.
Yes, a slot corner extraordinaire, Justin Houston.
But yeah, and even with Mike Hughes, you throw in the fact that there are some injury concerns there, right? Yep. So it's not obviously some of it is on play, some of it's also injury. So you think, hey, we believe that maybe that's behind them. We have faith in our medical staff, with our coaching, yada, yada, yada. Throw all that together.
So here's the other thing. When you have 5 guys in that group, L'Jarius Sneed, freak injury, but he got hurt last year, broke his collarbone, missed a bunch of time. Charvarius Ward has predominantly stayed pretty healthy. Mm-hmm. I think it was a thumb thing.
Yeah.
But he's had just a thing happen because he's playing a violent sport.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rashad Fenton has stayed healthy. He might have had a hammy for a couple of games, but I don't think he missed time with it. And then you have DeAndre Baker coming off of a broken leg and Mike Hughes having just injury issues throughout his career so far.
Fenton hurt both of his ankles when they lost to the Chargers
at the
end of last season.
That's right, he did. I forgot about that. So there you go. You can literally put a little injury red flag on every single one of these guys to varying degrees, obviously. But you can also put highs and lows on their play, right? For Sneed, he was great in multiple positions, but for 1 year, for a dozen games, all things said and done. For Ward, his best year was not this last season, but the year before it. Which one is the most real Charvarius Ward? Really hard to say with confidence. For Mike Hughes, if you went off his draft profile, you'd be stoked. But can he be healthy? And also, can he play better than he did in Minnesota? For Rashad Fenton, 6th-round pick who way overachieved his draft slot, but probably can only play in the slot, and it doesn't seem like he's gotten full 100% starting slot cornerback trust from the Chiefs, who would love to have him be their 4th guy. For DeAndre Baker, great talent, played well. His off-the-field stuff is not real off-the-field stuff at this point, but his broken leg is. He hurt it in his first game with the Chiefs, Week 17 last year. So, this is the thing I really want to make sure I do get clear. I actually really like all 5 of those guys, at least in their various roles and acquisition costs, right? Charvarius Ward for Parker Anger and then having a great cap hit a bunch of years in a row, including this year. Love it. L'Jarius Sneed is a 4th-round pick. Stupendous. This gamble for Mike Hughes, absolutely fine by me. DeAndre Baker, love it. Rashad Fenton is a 6th-round pick. Are you kidding me? Fantastic. But there are red flags across all of those guys in various places. And if you end up in a spot where you just have simply some bad luck, now Bo Pete Keys is in the mix. Or now maybe you're forcing one of those guys who's underperforming back into action when you would really rather have something more stable there. I really like them making this move for Hughes because it costs so very little on a lottery ticket that you feel on a penny stock. It's a stock that just crashed, right? This player's stock was 1st-round draft pick value in 2018, and it's cratered since then. Mm-hmm. Let's see if we can buy in there and make something out of it. But if that's the last move the Chiefs make in their defensive backfield, I'm going to be bummed out. What I really hope they do still is bring back Bashaud Breeland for his 3rd year here. Give him 3 consecutive 1-year deals. I've said I think I'm alone on an island on this. Maybe I'm a kook, but I would if Bashaud Breeland said, just give me that, but over 2 years. Just give me a 2-year deal that would give you an uncomfortable cap hit to let me go in year 2, and I just want to have some security for 2 years. If it's at a reasonable price, I would do that for the reasons I'm laying out here right now. I love buying all these stocks super low, but I would also love not just to add another body, but to add one to the top of the depth chart. If Bashaud Breeland ends up back in Kansas City, he is one of your outside starting cornerbacks, period. In my world, I think what I would prefer would be to have Breeland on the outside, Ward on the outside, and keep Sneed in the slot, and let Steve Spagnuolo continue to do the weaponizing of L'Jarius Sneed that he did after he came back from his injury last year. That's my favorite spot for Sneed. The issue is that it unless you're moving him outside in sub packages, which you're in 70-75% of the time, right? If he's only coming in on sub packages, then maybe your best corner or your second best corner isn't on the field for 30% of the snaps. And I totally understand that can be a difficult thing to solve, and it is a lot to ask a young corner to play the outside in base packages and then to kick into the slot in sub packages and to just do that over the course of 17 games, 100% of the snaps. That's a lot. My inclination would be to just bite the bullet on that, and if you have Breeland and you have Ward on the outside, that's how you start your year. If Ward takes another step back, what do you have all of a sudden? You have flexibility. If Ward takes a step back, or if Breeland ends up with Matt Derrick, last time we talked to, mentioned that he maybe could still have a suspension from the incident from last season. If Breeland gets suspended, or if Ward takes a step back, or if any of those guys with varying levels of injury concerns get hurt, now all of a sudden, you can move L'Jarius Sneed back outside, and Rashad Fenton can come play the spot that he seems most comfortable in, which is in the slot. If you have Sneed get hurt again, Fenton into the slot. If Mike Hughes or DeAndre Baker come out and you cannot keep them off the field and they're performing better than Charvarius Ward, then all of a sudden Charvarius Ward in this last year of his in this restricted free agent deal that he signed that'll keep him here for one more year Well, now all of a sudden, Charvarius Ward is the guy that steps in if something else breaks bad somewhere else. That's a wonderful place to be. But the only hesitancy that I think people can come up with here is really that right now they've got a pretty good group that is very deep but isn't very wide, I guess. I just need another unit of measurement. This is a very deep roster, but it doesn't have... It's not deep with a bunch of surefire starters or probable Pro Bowlers. I think right now, Snead, even with Breland on the roster, Snead is the guy that has the highest ceiling at this point.
For sure.
Also, in part, being the guy with the most unknowns. DeAndre Baker might be next because he looked pretty good before all of the nonsense happened.
Snead is a young corner who made a lot of like big time plays, and so the hype. You're right. So just the hype there alone, the potential of what he could be, makes him number one on there. But like you said, like the certainty of Bashaud Breeland from that down to down value, like that, or that down.
I would just
like,
rest easier at night.
We don't know that we had that. L'Jarius Snead could be that. We just don't know that he's that.
The thing that really I think everybody except for Breeland have in common is a tremendous amount of possible variance. Again, I talk about the volatility of the cornerback position all the time. Breeland in Kansas City has been really consistent for an NFL cornerback.
There's always that one game. You always get the one Bashaud Breeland holding game a year where it feels like he gets called 5 times. But but outside of that, like you don't hear his name a ton because he's just doing his thing.
I'd rather have one of those than end up in a reality where maybe there are 8 games where someone just gets toasted.
Yep.
Think about, we remember the names of Phillip Gaines and Marcus Cooper, Traymon Smith. Traymon Smith didn't get much. Not Traymon Smith. I don't think ever actually got defensive snaps.
Not a lot of run as a corner, but it's played 2 different positions. And,
that history is crazy. Who's with the Browns now? I think he's still with the Browns.
It's T. Mitchell, but I'm forgetting his first
Terrence
name.
Mitchell.
Terrence Mitchell, yeah.
You get those guys that
I think he might have just signed with Houston, actually.
Oh, no kidding.
He was with the Browns. I think he's a Texan.
I didn't know that. Good for him. You find those guys who have great moments, and then eventually you remember because Peyton Manning just ignored all FCC regulations and stripped them down bare naked on national television and just threw footballs at their head like that SNL skit.
That one still haunts me with Cooper. Like that one's because he was playing well.
Yeah.
And then Peyton Manning figured out what he couldn't do.
And he never bounced back.
The NFL was just like, there it is.
It was over. We remember the names of those guys because of how bad it is whenever there is an absolute explosion at their position. And I just don't want David Amerson or Orlando Skendrick is the better one because Amerson got cut early.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to remember the name of because this is not unfair because this happened to him in Minnesota. It's why he just got moved for a bag of chips. I don't want to remember Mike Hughes because he was the guy that got forced into action in week 6 because something horrible happened to L'Jarius Snead. And now all of a sudden Mike Hughes is your starting outside corner opposite Charvarius Ward with Rashad Fenton in the slot. We just went very quickly from feeling really good about the Chiefs cornerbacks, or at least pretty good about the Chiefs cornerbacks, to a nightmare. The Chiefs do not have to be in that position, in part because all these dudes are cheap as hell right now. Bashaud Breeland would come in if it was a 1-year deal and be the most expensive corner on this roster, and it still wouldn't be that much money. I mentioned Verderam earlier. He tweeted the exact thing that I was hoping to see, which was that the Hughes move doesn't close the door on Bashaud Breeland going back to KC. So that would be, again, for me right now, as someone who, by the way, has been worried about corners in a way that Brett Veach clearly has not been for his entire tenure as GM. Just the whole time. Yep. Look, it's worked out. So with Spags, I can keep the Bob Sutton year. But with Spags, I didn't think L'Jarius Snead was going to be a starter in week 1, at least an excellent starter out of the gate as a rookie. I definitely didn't expect him to get hurt and then to come back totally reinvented and even more explosive. Spags and the defensive back coaches and everything have absolutely earned some trust on this from me It's why I think the Hughes move makes a lot of sense. It's why I think DeAndre Baker is going to work out. It's why I won't totally say that 7th round pick Bo Pete Keys will never see the field, because I don't know that. Because this defensive coaching staff has really gotten some good stuff out of guys that look like they might have been about out of the league. If Emmanuel Ogbah, Taco Charlton, and that sort of crop of guys would have come in and just absolutely flamed out, they might be out of the league right now. Breland Speaks got cut again today, by the way, if anyone's interested. But did you see he's getting a workout?
Never on the ground.
Did you see he's getting a workout, though?
Not on the ground, he's not.
Brilliant Speaks?
Kelvin Benjamin.
Ooh, go Kelvin.
I'm just
Big
hoping
boy.
he gets some activity in. We've all had issues being kind of sedentary during the pandemic. I'm just glad to see Kelvin Benjamin out there working again. What if he just showed up shredded or super skinny? What if he showed up built like Devontae Smith?
I feel like if he showed up, like for him, shred is probably still is looking more like DK, right? Like it's still big, but like muscular big.
I'm saying if he shows up like Devontae Smith, just sinewy.
Chaos Warrior asks, is he trying out at guard?
I don't know, but
I
if
feel
so,
like,
the Chiefs,
I feel like
Chiefs don't
he's
need
got
him.
the athleticism to play left tackle. With those arms too.
Find his arm length and we'll see. But I like the Hughes trade. I would like it even better if Bashaud Breeland was already on the roster, strangely enough. And I will go from being a bit of an optimistic, concerned citizen from the cornerback group to being a full-on fanboy for it if they do end up adding Bashaud Breeland still. So keep an eye out for that. That's very important to the entire defensive equation at this point for me. I would love to see Bashaud Breeland back on this team. I don't know that it's going to happen. And if it doesn't, I think there's a world in which this is fine. I would just rather know for certain that it's a good group instead of just crossing my fingers and hoping for it.
You sleep a little bit. One quick thing is I just like, as you're talking about, obviously the investment in the Chiefs corner. I have like the SPO track brought up, and they haven't added Mike Hughes yet to the corner spot, but they will, with the addition of Mike Hughes as a $3.1 million cap hit, will have invested $11.3 million in the cornerback position. Prior to Mike Hughes,
That's got to be bottom.
the percentage
five-ish,
of
right?
their 2021 cap by corners is 4.35%.
Crazy.
That will obviously go up with Mike Hughes. I assume, just off the top of my head, it's probably maybe 5.5 at that point. Maybe it's up to 6, right around that area. But you're talking about a position that should be, I would assume, is under 6% cap allocation. Also, Charvarius Ward is the oldest player currently at 26. Mike Hughes would be is weirdly the same age as Snead, Fenton, and Baker and Keys.
Yeah, he's young.
Been in the NFL obviously much longer.
Yeah. That was because he was I think it was North Carolina for his freshman year and then transferred and came out right after that.
Charvarius Ward will just be slightly above Hughes on the cap hit. Ward's at 3.3 this year. Hughes will be at 3.1. So like your top, it's 3.3, 3.1, and then everybody else is under $1 million.
I might try to figure this out at some point during the show today, where the Chiefs stand in terms of total spending at the position among other NFL teams, because it's got to be right there at the bottom of the league. If they end up around $6 million in terms of cap hits for the position this year, their entire cornerback room will cost less than like Darius Slay, and that's barely. It'll cost less than Patrick Peterson's 1-year deal with the Vikings. By the way, worth noting in the trade from today, he'll make $8 million on a 1-year deal. It's an $8 million cap hit for the Vikings this year. The Chiefs' entire cornerback room will be a smaller cap hit this year than Patrick Peterson will be in Minnesota. So there's a fun stat for you if we can't bring you any more actually good information than that. Kendall Fuller, high cap hit, top 5-ish, 6 or 7 looks like in the league this year.
Go Kendall.
Get that money, Kendall.
Top trending players right now: Mike Hughes, Blake Bortles, Tim Tebow.
What else could you possibly? That right there, Beards, I know he only said 3 consecutive names, but that might be an AES promo. Just slow it down to fill out 30 seconds. Just Rudy going, Mike Hughes, Blake Bortles, Tim Tebow. Almost Entirely Sports.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. Hey. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
Some people click this podcast and it says like more on Spencer Ware to injured reserve, which isn't official yet, but whatever, and breaking down the Chiefs trade. And like, all right, hell yeah, Chiefs trade.
With Joshua Brisco.
And they clicked it, and we're 10 minutes in, and I'm about to explain the story of this pineapple hat that I'm wearing.
On Sports Radio 810, WHB.
Okay, Rudy found the positional spending list we were looking for.
Did.
So can you tell me what you think the Chiefs' total cap hit at corner is going to be after Mike Hughes is added to it?
So once you add Mike Hughes, they should be essentially at 11.3 million. It might be 11.38 million, whatever. Essentially 11.3 million. They're at 8.2. His cap hit
really
is
quick.
3.1.
Do you know that the Chiefs are going to absorb that entire Mike Hughes
cap hit? That's actually
because on Spot Track. On Spot Track,
point.
over the cap, they have Hughes having a $1.3 million dead cap hit with the Vikings if traded before June 1st. So the Chiefs might only absorb about 1.8 of that, would be my guess.
That's a good point. Again, part of this is let's just
that's his base salary, so that would make sense.
Let's roll with the 1.8. Give me a quick second.
In fact, no,
I got it.
You do the math. That's fine. I'll explain this real quick. So 1.3 million is his prorated bonus.
Yeah.
That money has already been paid.
Okay.
That's just the prorated bonus, is just you get the signing bonus at the beginning of your deal.
Spaced out over 4 years.
It's just stretched out. So his $1.8 million base salary is what the Chiefs will actually pay.
Okay, cool.
So what is the Chiefs' cornerback number going to be, assuming they don't sign Breeland or just without Breeland right now?
So essentially $10 million on the dot. They're currently at $8,201,000. Let's just say 1.8, just even 10 mil.
I'll say it's bottom
10.3 mil.
I'm going to say they're 25th in the NFL at $10 million.
So prior to acquiring,
maybe lower.
25th. Okay. So
I'm going to say 25th though. I feel like maybe
25th?
there's a couple teams out there with a bunch of rookies that I'm not thinking of.
So prior to acquiring,
I'm going to say 26th.
26th. Okay.
You know what? I'm going to say, go ahead, Rudy. 26th.
Prior to acquiring Mike Hughes, they at $8.2 million. They were ranked 31st.
Wow.
Only the Cardinals at $7.299 million were lower. They now jump all the way to 28.
Boom.
They will be they like by tens of thousands of dollars less than the Atlanta Falcons, and just above the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
There you go.
Yeah.
I just think that's super interesting because also this is a conversation we were having 3 years ago. It's not how I would have built my team. I would have gone and gotten a blue chip corner and just bitten the bullet and paid him for it. I'm not sure I would have been right, but it's what I would have done. It's kind of interesting.
And likely just looking at it right here, the teams around them, again, as far as the percentage of that cap, of the position towards the cap, the Buccaneers are at 5.34%. The Falcons are at 5.43%. The Chiefs will likely be right around that 5.4% mark. So pretty low. Compared to the Dolphins, who are at the top, who are spending almost 20% of their cap. They're at $38.8 million at the cornerback position.
Two quick Twitch comments before I do want to talk about the Chiefs' schedule, which was going to be the main thing today, and then this happened. Farrelly on Twitch, the most concerning position on defense is a defensive end. I think that right now it's defensive end because I don't love the depth and the expensive guy on the edge I don't feel great about, being Frank Clark, obviously. If they kick Chris Jones out for a considerable amount of edge work, I get a little less stressed about it, but it's definitely, I think that's number one. But I say that, and then Dillard on Twitch said, would you rather have any veteran defensive end available or Breeland back? And so I did hear the thing that I just said 5 seconds ago, and I think I would probably rather have Breeland back. I'm doing it on a curve, right, where I think that Melvin Ingram is going to get more money in 2021 than Bashaud Breeland is going to, wherever he ends up. But even then, I've got questions about Melvin Ingram that I'm not all the way relaxed about. If you have to say money is not an object or it's the same, I would rather by a split hair would rather have Justin Houston than Bashaud Breeland. But I think if I'm doing it with the money at least involved, it's probably Houston, Breeland, Ingram. I think it's a good question. I haven't given that an enormous amount of thought, kind of ranking them that way. But that's where my head's at right now. Kind of knee-jerk reaction.
My thought would probably my initial thought would be Breeland, just because I think the cornerback position is more valuable than the defensive end. I think corners make better pass rushers versus the opposite. Right. But Spags for Spags and what the Chiefs defense does, they clearly put more value on the defensive end than the corners. And just so far, just from what I've seen Spags do with maybe less talented corners or even versus less talented defensive linemen, I would probably say if I had the choice, I would choose the defensive end for Spags because I think he needs that more than he necessarily needs the talented corner. Now, maybe part of the reason why he's been able to piece together that cornerback, and really, piece together is not the right, because, again, they have some pretty talented guys. L'Jarius Sneed has obviously shown he has talent. Travarius Ward's played well. Part of the reason why they've probably been able to figure that out is because of how stable Bashaud Breeland has made that cornerback one spot. And so it is interesting. I think, again, just looking at it, though, since it is what Spags would do or what Spags would want, I think what maybe he needs in his defense, I think I lean towards, that Ingram Houston. I personally would I would draft corners with probably my first round pick every year.
Right.
Just corners and receivers all day long.
I think the cornerback group is a Breland addition away from being really good and really deep and not having to be a concern at all in 2021.
Yep.
I think the defensive end position is a Houston or an Ingram signing away from not being
Feeling
terrifying.
better?
Yeah. It's and I guess it depends on what you'd rather do. I would rather make corner a strength, and part of this, because here's the thing, Melvin Ingram's not going to be a surefire thing to be like an upgrade and on the field for 17 games, you know?
And he doesn't necessarily make Frank Clark better. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's really what we're talking about. It's how good is Frank Clark this year, because if Frank Clark goes out and has 16 sacks, the defensive end spot looks pretty good all of a sudden.
Yeah.
If he goes out and has 3, it doesn't really matter what Melvin Ingram does much on the other side, unless he reverts back to form, which I don't think he's going to play like he's 27 again. But and I think that's a really good point.
Let's take a break. Whenever we come back, we'll talk about the Chiefs' schedule a little bit. We'll shift the Royals in 15 minutes with David Lesky. I just realized the clock that's usually here is gone. It's back there.
Yeah.
I looked over at just an empty space to see what time it was, and it's time for this.
I don't even know what time it is.
It's time for me to take a
What time
break.
is
Who's
it?
playing corner? Who am I dropping back in the coverage? What day is it?
At JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, at Not That Rudy, at Sports Radio 810. Just do it already. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Chaotic Warrior on Twitch solved the clock mystery, said Petrum moved it, called it an unnecessary clock. I like this clock. It's not precise, and he's right on the truest level. There's a clock over here that exactly matches the clock I think that Beards is looking at.
What time you got?
04, 05, 06.
We're good.
So that's the one that I look at whenever I'm trying to, like, 100% make sure. If Beards is like, all right, you're going to be out at 50. When are we going to be out, Beards?
57.
On the dot?
56.50.
I need to know this stuff, Beards. What if that last 10 seconds was going to be the best reader we're going to do all day, and all of a sudden it's gone?
56.50.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now I just wasted 10 seconds talking about those 10 seconds. Now I'm out 20 seconds. 21, 22.
23.
But this clock is much larger. Like, this is the size of my entire hand, and so just a quick little glance over there, it's off by a minute. But over, in the mid-show times, it's nice. At the end of an hour, I'll look over the little one. Anyway, the Chiefs' schedule dropped. We were live as it was happening here on 810. In fact, podcasted it on the AES feed if you wanted to hear my live, here's what I think is interesting, sort of breakdown. And if you didn't hear it or have not yet committed it to memory yet, here's Andy Reid telling you the schedule.
Look forward to the challenge of playing the Browns. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Ravens. We look forward to the challenge of playing LA. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Eagles. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Buffalo Bills. I do look forward to the challenge of playing a good football team.
That one's
Look
so
forward
good.
to the challenge of playing the Titans. We look forward to the challenge of playing the Giants. We look forward to the challenge of playing the Green Bay Packers. We look forward to the challenge of playing the Raiders. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Cowboys.
This is the bye week.
Look forward to the challenge of playing Denver. I look forward to the challenge of playing the Raiders. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Chargers. We look forward to the challenge of playing the Steelers. We look forward to the challenge of playing the Bengals. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Broncos. All right, that time's yours.
And whipping all their butts.
That Beards added that part. That was from the courtesy of the Chiefs Twitter account. A really excellent video.
Very well done.
To give out the schedule. So there's your 18-week season. The Chiefs have the maximum number of primetime games. They have 5. One of them is in week 2 on the road at Baltimore. Another early season Baltimore challenge, and we'll see how that goes. But it's at Baltimore, Sunday Night Football. Week 5, they host the Bills on Sunday Night Football, which should be a lot of fun. Week 8, kind of a weird one. Giants at Chiefs Monday Night Football, just because we don't see any of the NFC teams all that often.
And it's also a Monday night game.
And it's a Monday night game against
the Giants.
Maybe the least interesting team in that division for me. I guess it's probably Washington.
You don't know interesting then. It's Daniel Bleepin' Jones.
I'm guessing that's one of the Giants' few primetime games, and the rest of the NFC East probably already had a lot on the schedule.
You know what I just realized going into that game?
It'd be hard for me to read your mind.
We're going to hear a lot of, but Saquon Barkley can beat the Chiefs. They're just going to run the ball all day.
Beards, when was the last time he was healthy in week 8?
2 years ago.
Yes.
So we'll see. I mean, maybe. Then 2 weeks later, here there are a couple stretches in this season that I think is going to be a lot of fun and also very challenging. Week 10, they go to the Raiders, Sunday Night Football, new stadium, all that. That's going to be a blast. And then week 15, they go to the Chargers for Thursday Night Football, traveling for Thursday Night Football. Second year in a row, by the way. Last year was going to be the Bills game, but it got moved around.
Yeah.
That's a tough break, though. I wish that if there was any game over the course of the year where the Chiefs could lock in a home game, I would say whatever Thursday night is. Because not having to actually travel for that would obviously be very nice.
I don't know what the updated, it's been a couple of years since I've seen the winning percentage, but I know a few years ago whoever the home team was for Thursday Night Football was winning 75% of the time. I imagine that hasn't changed much, if at all. It's different when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback. You can go on the road on Thursday Night Football and win anytime because you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. It is just a different kind of challenge.
You'd rather not.
Yes.
You can, but you'd just rather not. I can put more expensive gas in my car,
for sure,
but I would rather not.
Exactly.
So a couple stretches here that I think are the most interesting. So you go Browns at home, at Ravens, Chargers at home, 1, 2, 3. 3 straight good teams. I think the Chiefs are better than all those 3 teams, but they're 3 good teams right there. Mm-hmm. At Eagles, Andy Reid, homecoming thing, but they should win that game. Then it's Bills at home, Sunday Night Football. So that first 5 weeks is tough. Out of that, they go to Washington, should be fine. They go to Tennessee, and Derrick Henry will just run the ball and keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. I don't see what the problem here is.
Time of possession influences wins. We all know it.
So I think the Chiefs will be fine there, but that's another playoff caliber team that plays really. That Ryan Tannehill and A.J. Brown do give me pause, even while Derrick Henry doesn't give me very much. After that, you get Monday Night Football against the Giants team you should be fine against. Then it's the Packers at home. Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, Blake Bortles. Who's to say?
Only team I believe that
joke.
Andy Reid has never beat as the head coach of the Chiefs.
Interesting.
I know he's never beat the Packers as head coach of the Chiefs 0-2. I believe it's the only team he's never beat.
Do you think he beat them in Philly at some point? He had to in Philly at some point, right?
I would assume they played each other enough times that he definitely did.
I wouldn't have guessed that he was at 30 as the Chiefs head coach. That's crazy. Although Patrick Mahomes, I think, has actually beaten like almost everybody. So that would sync up in a very short stretch. So then you have that game going into your Sunday Night Football at Vegas, and you get the Cowboys at home, which could be sneaky tough because Dak's back. Then you get a late season bye. You like that. And then out of the bye, the Chiefs go back to what they do best. Broncos at Chiefs, Raiders at Chiefs, Chiefs at Chargers. That is a brutal stretch of 3 straight divisional games, but it's coming off a bye, and that is going to decide right there. The AFC West should be over by week 15, but that's a toughie. And then you get the Steelers, the Bengals, and the Broncos. Should be 3 wins to finish it out there. But not knowing where Aaron Rodgers is going to be, not knowing exactly how much the Chargers will be able to bring to the table, also only one bye week in the postseason again, it should be a very fun schedule, although I was going to say that no matter what the order was.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Center.
I'm Doug Brown. For the second time since the offseason, Yankees shortstop Gleyber Torres tests positive for COVID-19. Torres was also fully vaccinated. He's the 8th confirmed case on the team right now. The other 7 are from the coaching and support staffs. Right now, in St. Petersburg, 3rd inning, the Rays lead the Yankees 2-0. Finals earlier today, the Tigers beat the Royals 4-3, all 4 runs in the second. Kansas City has now lost 11 in a row. The Nationals beat the Phillies 5-1. Kyle Schwarber and Josh Bell each hit 2-run homers in the first inning. The game is almost 5 months away, but it's safe to say the hype has already begun. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in Foxborough to play the Patriots. Among those who can't wait, Tom Brady Sr.
I saw the schedule come out last night, and I started salivating when I saw that we play the Patriots in the 4th game of the season. It's a game where we get to root for, against nobody. We get to root for the Patriots, but our most favorite team, of course, is the Buccaneers, and so we expect to beat the Patriots rather handily, frankly.
Tom Brady Sr. on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Texas Longhorns forward Greg Brown says he'll be leaving Austin after his freshman season to enter the NBA draft. St. John's basketball coach Mike Anderson gets a 6-year contract extension through 2027. He was the Big East Coach of the Year last season.
Hey, it's Greeny, and on Friday, we're roaring into the final weekend of the NBA season with a lot left to be settled, plus plenty of baseball and schedule talk, too. See you then, it's Greeny, starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN+.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
The Royals have a chance today to have the worst offensive stretch in the history of a game that's been played since Jesus was here.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The last time that we had David Lesky on, do you guys know what the Royals record was? I was pulling it up right now to make sure I got the date right. No, Rudy, that's not it.
14-6.
It was the 6th of last week. So they were probably in the let's get this exactly right.
45-41.
We talked to him on Thursday, May 6th, when the Royals were they were just wrapping up a brutal 5-game losing streak. They're going to have to go deal with the White Sox, but after that, at least they'd get to play the Tigers. A 5-game losing streak when we talked to you last, Lesky, and now it's 11.
Those were quaint times, weren't they?
We talked to you last time. They were 16-14. They're above 500.
Yeah, which they might get there again by sometime in the middle of the Cactus League schedule next year. I'd predict a 3-1 start to spring training. I'm going to say it right off the bat.
Wow.
Just right now, throwing that out there. Put me on what is the Cold Takes or whatever Twitter account. Like I'm just put me there. I'm there. I'm saying it right now. Over 500 in the first weekend of spring training.
The defeated voice you hear is, of course, David Lesky. You can follow him on Twitter at DBLesky, and you can read the immaculate Inside the Crown newsletter at insidethecrown.substack.com or bit.ly/Lesky hates Bobby Witt, I believe is the bit.ly. I will say, Lesky, I think your best work you brought out in the darkest time. You said, I'm going to be the hero that we need right now. And if you read the most recent newsletter, it's just a bunch of gifs of puppies. It's a Bobby Witt Jr. home run, and then it's some words that you can skip. So
yeah,
I really enjoyed that one.
Hang on. I put puppies at the end, too, so that way you'd at least pretend like you were reading the words.
He didn't get that far, John. Lesky?
I'm Josh. He's
yeah,
Lesky.
I almost did. Lesky, I mentioned the exact same thing to him.
Yeah.
He didn't get that far.
No, I didn't.
I figured not.
I was reading it today, and then the Chiefs traded for a cornerback, and then I let that distract my mind instead of having anything Royals related in there, because I don't need to be, more depressed about the state of the baseball team.
I will say, you could change the bit.ly to the Royals hate Lesky, because let me tell you what's really bad for subscriptions.
Yeah.
An 11-game losing streak.
Yeah, that has to not be good. That's a great point, and I do. I liked this one. I hit the little heart at the bottom, so
I appreciate it.
I've got that for you at least. I don't know. Let's work backwards. Today, they almost got back at the end. They made it a little interesting, which actually they've done a few times over the course of this streak.
There's a couple positives that I want to hit on real quick.
I'd love that.
Number one, the Royals are not the Twins.
Yes, true.
That's a team that was expecting to win 100 games, and what are they, 12-23 now? Is that right?
They're bad. It's really bad.
They're as bad as the Royals have been. We at least had April. We at least had hey, it's fun for a while. And when you're that good in a month, it takes. I mean, really, the amazing thing is that they've completely erased everything so quickly because even that took over a week. Basically, the Twins have just had this all season long. I mean, it's just. I mean, they have a 2019 Royals season going on, which that was brutal too. But so that's a positive. And then another positive is that Chris Bubich has been really good in relief of Daniel Lynch, who is not ready for the big leagues.
Mondesi is getting a rehab start tonight.
Mondesi is taking the field. He's on the field right now if they start on time at shortstop next to Bobby Witt Jr., which, look, Witt at third, Mondesi at short. I think that's something fun to watch. So that's a positive. Yeah, that's about it. Guys, I'm out.
Well, you can go to bit.ly/The Royals Hate Lesky if you want to check out the Inside the Crown newsletter on Substack. It's all right there. You'll get some good work about a bad baseball team. Let's talk about Daniel Lynch, because I really wanted to be excited there. And you mentioned Chris Bubich has been good, but also Daniel Lynch is in his starting spot right now. Yeah. And the absolute best possible start for Jacob Junis was thrown into the bullpen and then summarily lit on fire. So both of those, that little shuffling around for potentially one starting spot, I know they needed some help in the bullpen, but that's been very frustrating to me.
Yeah, in hindsight, if you look at why they did it, it makes sense. It does. Jacob Junis it was a very short amount of time, but he was successful at the end of last year in the bullpen. He looked sharp. He looked sharp at the beginning of the season in the bullpen. The bullpen was a mess. Their options to call up were not really great for a reliever. So they went with a starter, their top starting pitching prospect, who they thought was ready. So, that right there, and you say, okay, they need help in the bullpen. Junis can do that. He only threw 25 innings last year, so he's not going to start all season anyway. This is a good opportunity. All this stuff, it made sense, and it has just absolutely exploded on them. I don't blame Dayton Moore or Mike Matheny for that decision. A lot of people do. A lot of people look at that and they go, well, see what happened. But when you think about it, why they did it, I think it makes a lot of sense. It didn't help that Lynch was bad. He was okay in his first start. I wouldn't say he was bad. He was fine. It did not help that Junis immediately gave up, I think it was 5 runs that first game, right? Mm-hmm. I think he gave up 5 out of the bullpen. And then the next time he came out, I can't remember, did he give the home run that tied the game or the home run that took the lead? I don't
There's
know.
No way I can remember any individual terrible Royals moment from the last 2 weeks.
It does not matter at this point. But he had his first scoreless outing out of the bullpen yesterday, I believe. Only a week after being put in there. So that's great.
Progress.
It's huge progress. But like I said, when you look back on it, your options are to put a guy who's never relieved in the bullpen in Daniel Lynch, if you want to call him up, and hope that he can pitch in leverage spots, or bring a guy up in a situation against an Indians lineup that's not very good, and put a guy who's actually relieved in the big leagues in the bullpen, who's succeeded in that role when they needed a reliever because Zimmer's hurt and Hahn. I don't know why they keep saying that Hahn's an issue because he hasn't been on the mound since mid-April, but whatever, he's part of the conversation, I guess. Also on a rehab assignment, along with Kyle Zimmer, by the way. There's positives. They've got guys on the way back. But with all that in mind, it was kind of a galaxy brain thought, I think, to put Junis in the bullpen and Lynch in the rotation. But it also made sense when you really sit down and think about it. It's just been a horrible horrible result. And, Saran always talks about this. It's a get-it-right business, and they didn't get that right. They got it wrong. And even if it made sense at the beginning, they were wrong. They were 100% wrong. But I think the bigger issue is not Junis in the bullpen. It's the fact that Daniel Lynch looks so far from big league ready that you have to wonder, what are the evaluators on this team doing? Like, what exactly – how can we trust anything if they thought he was ready when he's been getting lit up like crazy? I think that's a fair question to ask. And one that we've asked for years, honestly, with this regime. So it's not like it's, they got it wrong on one guy, so they're terrible. No, they've gotten it wrong on a lot of guys over the years, and this is just the latest. It's frustrating. I just want to say it to you. I don't think Daniel Lynch is done. I don't think he's never going to be a good pitcher. I think he just needs some time in the minors, and he didn't get that. He was on the AAA roster. He never even made a start. He got called up before their first game. So he didn't get that chance. He needs some time. I hope that he will be part of the roster moves that happen before tomorrow's game. If they don't make any moves before tomorrow, I don't understand what the point of having a front office is, honestly. And I know that sounds really like final, but at the same time, they've lost 11 in a row. They've got a DH who can't hit, a right fielder who can't play the field, but they have a right fielder in AAA who can hit and play the field, and you can move your right fielder who can't play the field. There's so many obvious solutions that have to be made that if they don't do it today because they're waiting for the magical 40-game mark, just fire everybody because you're wasting. You're not doing your job in any way, shape, or form.
We got this regime and a fire everybody if they don't blank. This has been a bad couple of weeks. Can I Venmo you $5 to get a drink, or can you just not watch the game tomorrow? Just fully let that one go.
The nice thing about
games tomorrow, excuse me. Oh God,
there are two, but there's only 14 innings worth of games. It's the first time I've liked the 7-inning doubleheader. It'll be over quicker. The nice thing about I pretty much only write during the week, so if I don't watch a game on the weekend, I can fake it on Monday. But
sure,
I don't know. We'll see. I can't pull myself away. I have a very real problem.
Clear, and they are the Royals. I do want to dig in on Daniel Lynch there for a second because of all of the things that may or may not matter over the course of this season. Look, if they end up being a team that's a little bit sub 500 over the course of the year, if they end up being if they're a 75 win team, if they're a 70 win, whatever. If it's not a total absolute embarrassment over the course of the year, it doesn't really matter what their final record ends up being if they're also not a playoff team. But what might matter is totally getting the timing wrong on Daniel Lynch, or maybe even having greater expectations for him than he actually provided. You say that he's not done, right? Just needs to actually throw baseballs in the minor leagues. But is there a little range of potential outcomes right now that maybe you're more or less worried about with him?
It's 3 starts at the big league level that he clearly isn't ready for. There were some concerns in the minors, and the other problem with evaluating anybody right now is we don't have minor league data since 2019. Mm-hmm. It's literally all alternate site, which is playing against your own guys. So if a pitcher is dominating, there's a chance that the offense just sucks, right? It doesn't necessarily mean the pitcher is great. So in the minors, he probably didn't miss enough bats, which I think is something that you can kind of fine-tune your breaking balls. And, he threw a changeup to Miguel Cabrera in the top of the 2nd inning today that, if he could produce that every single time, he would never give up a hit. But he can't. And that's the sort of thing that you need to produce it more often than he has. And that's the thing you can work on in the minor leagues where it doesn't really matter. So I still look at Daniel Lynch and I see a guy who, if you asked me which of the 29 million pitching prospects they have, and that's still a positive too, by the way, which of those is going to start game 1 of a playoff series if they ever get there, I would bet on Daniel Lynch. I'd bet on the field over any of them. But
sure,
if you made me pick one of those pitchers, Daniel Lynch is the guy who's going to be starting game 1 of the ALDS in 2023 or whatever it is. And So I'm not terribly concerned yet. I just, like I said, I think there's some things that need to get fixed and need to work out, and that's okay. It's most guys don't come to the big leagues fully cooked. Now, most of them don't get rocked like Daniel Lynch has, but also I put this on Twitter, and I know I'm kind of going wishy-washy back and forth here. That second inning when he gave up 4 runs, I don't think he gives up. I don't think he gives up a hit. I think they go 1, 2, 3 if they have a competent right fielder in there.
Right.
I mean, truly, Jorge. The first Miguel Cabrera blooped a single that I think out of 100 right fielders, Soler's the only one that doesn't get to it unless you put Nelson Cruz out there. The ball off, I think it was Eric Haas, maybe, that went over his head. I don't think 99 out of 100 get it, but I think like 80 out of 100 get it. So that's an out, and then there was an out in there. So that's a 1, 2, 3 inning. None of that happened. The Royals win the game 3-0. We're talking about, hey, the losing streak's over. It's time to go to Chicago and show them that last weekend was an aberration. You know, all that garbage that's not true. But you get really excited about it because they won a game. You know, so I don't know. I just don't think he was terribly sharp, and I think there were a lot of things that showed he wasn't ready. But also, I think he kind of got a little bit in trouble because of Royals' decision making that wasn't about him. Now, again, too much contact. Yes, it would have been nice if on the ball that Cabrera blooped, for example. It would have been nice if that was a touch more outside and he would have maybe swung through it or hit it on the ground. The ball that Haas lined over Soler's head, but that wasn't the location was bad. So he made that mistake. But you know, when you put any competent right fielder out there, and the start probably looks a whole lot different. So it's got to take that into consideration too. There's just a lot going on bad, and it's hard to know where to put the blame.
Well, you took me to one of the other things I very much wanted to ask you about, which is Jorge Soler in right field. Today was not his first bad game in the field. I don't know if you've got an example off the top of your head of Jorge Soler's first really good defensive outing. I'm not sure that it has existed because he's not a right fielder. He's a hitter. It's just where we're at this point. And the thing that's confusing to me, and I tweeted this and then tagged you and Alec Lewis both, and he was making some points about handedness and trying to optimize the lineup that way. And I understand that and the role that plays. However, it seems like way, way, way overthinking to get Ryan O'Hearn his bat in the lineup at DH, which moves Jorge Soler into right field, moving Hunter Dozier to third base to essentially replace Hanser Alberto with Ryan O'Hearn, when the only hit out of that spot today did come from Alberto's one plate appearance where he actually did get on base after O'Hearn struck out 2 times out of his 3 at bats. So I don't know. Am I the one taking crazy pills, or is this working way too hard for a pretty terrible outcome?
Well, so it's not just the lineup either, right? Because Dozier's a better right fielder than third baseman. Soler is a better anything than right fielder.
Non-glove wearer, yes.
Yes. Soler is a better DH than right fielder. O'Hearn is a better minor leaguer than major leaguer.
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, it doesn't, I don't get it.
My point with the lineup is that if that was all for the sake of getting your best bat into the lineup or a top 3 bat into your lineup at the cost of some defense, all right, fine, you live with that. If Soler was making those errors in a National League game, you know what? That comes with a Jorge Soler equation. Mm-hmm. This is an unforced error.
Yes, this is absolutely. It's not like Ryan O'Hearn is even Andrew Benintendi, who you don't have a spot for him until you got to get a 280 guy with a 360 on base percentage in the lineup. No. It's Ryan O'Hearn, who is not a big leaguer. He's never met a fastball he can hit. I mean, I don't understand the infatuation with Ryan O'Hearn. And I know Alex's point, like, yes, they wanted to get a left-handed bat in the lineup. That's great, but it's almost, you talk about, you got to have 3 lefties in the bullpen, and then some smart manager comes up, he's like, I don't care what hand they throw with if they get guys out.
Yeah.
And I don't care what side they hit from if they can't hit. The problem with this whole solution is that Ryan O'Hearn can't hit.
Right.
And so you've taken the defense down 25 notches where it was already pretty low, right? just to get Ryan O'Hearn's bat in the lineup. And I don't know. I don't think the answer, honestly, is Alberto at third, Dozier and right, and Soler at DH. I think the answer, unfortunately, the best answer was Kyle Isbell in right field, and he didn't play well enough, and so they sent him down. But Ryan O'Hearn has gotten far more of an opportunity to be far worse than Kyle Isbell while actively hurting the team in other spots. And so I just don't understand. To me, you don't want to bring Isbell back. That's fine. He started fine in AAA. He's hit decently. But you look at a guy, Edward Olivares has just torn the cover off the ball to start the season in AAA. At this point, if you're trying to salvage your season, doesn't that make sense? Yeah. Bring up the guy who's a pretty good defender. You can add a lot of speed to your outfield. A better hitter than Ryan O'Hearn. You can move Jorge Soler out of your outfield. You still got Dozier at third, and that's just one of those things that's where the roster is right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't really concern me because going back to what you said earlier, before the season, I said this is the final season that wins and losses don't especially matter.
Yep.
It's not that if they lose 100 games it matters, but like you said, I said 76 and 86. If they end up in the mid 70s and guys have progressed, that's fine. Next year, no, that's not okay. But this year, this is the year that they have one more year to say, well, we punted a win for development, but they're not even doing that.
Right.
They're just putting the worst offensive and defensive lineup on the field, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. And it's driving me insane. And I feel like I'm harping on it on Twitter a lot. But it's like every time I turn around, there's a ball that every other right fielder would catch, but Soler's out there. It's not his fault. Not his fault that Mike Matheny writes Soler RF on the lineup card. That's not his fault. Yeah, he's got to make the play, whatever. But he's not a right fielder. It would be like, Salvador Perez is playing center field and missed the ball. What a bum!
Right, right.
He shouldn't be out there. It's driving me up the wall. I can't wrap my head around it.
Let's say that Mondesi has a successful rehab stint and he ends up eventually, and you're able to at least move him around some. Whenever he ends up returning to this lineup, what do you change? What gets shuffled, and how much of an impact does it make?
Well, I mean, he goes to shortstop, obviously. I think Nicky Lopez, if you asked a month ago, he's the second baseman, Wits in right field.
Yep.
If you asked 2 weeks ago, Nicky Lopez is on a bus to somewhere in Pennsylvania where they don't even have a team, and that's that.
Yeah.
Now, the last 4 days, he started to hit again.
Yep.
I think there's a spot for Nicky Lopez on the roster. I don't know if there's a good spot for him in the starting lineup, but you could make a pretty good argument that Mondesi at short, Lopez at second, Merrifield and right gives the Royals the best chance to not kick the ball around.
That's where I'm at, yeah.
Yeah, and if Lopez is, he's got a .330 on base percentage. I mean, he has no power at all, and he's prone to some slumps because the ball just doesn't find grass because the outfielders don't play deep enough. So he can't bloop hits in. I've said that a million times about him, but you really improve your defense. And, you look on the field right now, any given time they have one elite defender on the field, and it's Michael A. Taylor, who has played terribly defensively last week, which that's a problem too. But if you move Nicky Lopez to second, you've got Mondesi at shortstop, all of a sudden you've got three elite defenders on the field because Lopez is not a good shortstop. He's not terrible. He's just not good. But he is a really good second baseman. And Mondesi's a really good shortstop. And Taylor, for all his faults lately, is a really good center fielder. All of a sudden, things start to fall into place a little bit better. Just a little bit. But that makes a lot of sense. And then, so Mondesi, he has a maximum of 20 days. I think I looked at it, was like June 3rd or 4th would be the day he could come back because there's an off day somewhere in there. So if you play with that and then you wait a month and you got Bobby Witt Jr. at third, just to... Yeah, getting you excited there.
Right to my heart.
The defense looks better, so that would help too. But we'll see. I bet Mondesi has hit at this point. I bet that he has gotten up to the plate and had an at bat. I'm going to look at this while we are on the phone.
I love it.
Because
Vahe Gregorian, I think, is there for the game. He tweeted out the lineup card, and it just the 2, 3, 4 is Mondesi, Bobby Witt Jr., Nick Pratto, and I was gonna make a joke about just bringing all three of those guys up at once, and then I saw that Nick Pratto's hitting 130 apparently so far. Not a great start.
Mondesi's over with a strikeout, by the way. So he's ready.
He's back. He's ready for this lineup. He'll fit right in. They won't even notice that he's been added.
Yeah, Pratto's not off to a great start, but I've kind of been able to figure some stuff out with. I haven't watched the games, but sounds like he's actually had some really good plate appearances. And it's a week, so the numbers are kind of whatever. I mean, think back to the first week, what Michael A. Taylor was hitting, just to bring him up again, and we can see how much things can change after 1 week. But yeah, I think when Mondesi comes back, that helps quite a bit. He's streaky, obviously. I mean, he could be terrible offensively, but I think that really helps the lineup too. Just it adds an element to it. They don't have a lot of. They've got a lot of guys who can run a little bit, but they don't have some true speed in the lineup right now. And he adds that too, so that's going to help some. But I mean, there are such basic moves that need to be made that, like I said, if they're not made tonight before tomorrow, I don't understand what the point of them doing what them in their jobs is, because they're clearly not doing what needs to be done.
I want to ask you to do a little bit of recapping on this one before we get into the latest element of it. I want you to just sort of describe your last couple of months talking about, writing about, being right about, being wrong about Hunter Dozier. And then also today, 0 for 4 and a couple of strikeouts. He's barely hitting better than Pratto in the minors right now. He's hitting a sick 140 with a 203 on base percentage, making his on base percentage 140 points worse than Nicky Lopez, which is not where you want to be.
Not what you want. No.
Not what you want. It kind of, if you could recap just sort of the journey that you've been on with Hunter Dozier. I only ask you to recap it because I think whatever your current status is will only be made more impactful by people knowing where you started.
Well, I just want to say that if I saw Hunter Dozier right now, I would want to punch him in the face because he's made me look very silly. I wouldn't, because he's bigger than me, but.
Lesky, just so you know, that last part you said there will not be included in the context of the lineup that gets played next time.
That's fair.
It sure won't.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I looked back, it was, I don't know, March-ish, and I looked at the contact rates from 2019 and the hard hit rates and the batted ball data and then his patience in 2020. And I thought, you know what? He had COVID last year. He mentioned it. The strength was down. If he can get back to hitting the ball like he did in 2019, you got a breakout player. And then he had a really, really solid spring. He looked really good. Signed that extension. And then he hurt himself on opening day. And it's never been the same. It's just never been right. And he's suffered from some bad luck. 100%. I don't know what the number is because I stopped looking because it was bad. But at some point he hit 17 balls 100 miles per hour or harder and had 4 hits. His expected bat, so that's what, 232 or something like that, I don't know. His expected batting average on those was like 614. So, okay, that's taken into consideration. So you're only adding 6 hits at that point. And I think he's had a few since then. And he got scorching hot for like 4 games. Remember, he was like 7 for 12 with 3 homers and 3 doubles and a triple. And the big joke was Hunter Dozier never hits singles. Well, he still doesn't, which is the good thing for him because he's 0 for his last 30. Is that right? 30, 31, 37? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad you got there before I had to say that out loud because I don't know. It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Yeah. He's lost. He's absolutely lost at the plate. And I don't know. Is he trying to justify the contract extension? I don't think so.
Oh, God, I had forgotten about that just for like a minute, I wasn't thinking about that when I asked that question, and that just happened. Oh,
it's a fair thing to ask. Is he trying too hard? And now, so here's my thing, and just to go back to what I was talking about with evaluation. If he is, that's another point against him for not recognizing that he's a guy who shouldn't get an extension because he will try too hard to justify it. I think that's a fair thing to be upset about. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, that's who knows? You can't know unless you ask Hunter Dozier, and if you ask Hunter Dozier, he's going to say absolutely not. So you've got to get him really drunk And I don't know how much he drinks. So there's a lot of issues there. And if he does get drunk, is he an angry drunk? And then if I get mad at him, is he going to hit me? There's a lot of problems.
There's a lot of equations here. There's a lot of Hunter Dozier-related angst that's coming out now.
Yeah, it's a lot of issues here. But I don't know what the issue is, but he looks terrible. I've never seen him look this bad. I mean, even I've said that about somebody else this year too, Brad Keller, by the way. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense. You wonder a little bit. It almost has to have something to do with a thumb injury, doesn't it? Because maybe he changed his approach to accommodate the pain in his thumb. I don't know, and then he can't get it back. Whatever it is, I will tell you, Hunter Dozier has one minor league option remaining.
Oh boy,
Kelvin Gutierrez is not good. That's me. I didn't mean it that way. This isn't like Ryan O'Hearn's not good. Kelvin Gutierrez is a quintessential replacement player, which there's value to have that on your roster. He plays really good defense at third. I don't know. I mean, maybe Hunter Dozier might enjoy the tranquil sounds of Omaha for a few weeks to try to get things right, because there's something just his pitch recognition is awful right now. His swing is out of whack. Every single aspect of his game, except for his glove has actually looked pretty good at third the last couple games. And he made a really nice play. I think it was last night where I don't even know, where he dove and then he didn't get anything on the flip because he just couldn't. Mm-hmm. That was a really nice play he made. And he's made a couple of plays like that in the past few days as well. But I mean, I think you got to give an investment in this guy now. It's not just, we can DFA him or non-tender him after this season because he didn't perform. You got an investment. So I think the Royals owe it to him maybe to send him to Omaha for it. It may have only be 2 weeks. You just got to get his swing right, basically. Yeah. And they've got a third baseman on the 40-man roster. So that's worth considering, but it's very disappointing to me. And Hunter, if you're listening, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Although you do want to punch him in the face, which is a kind of a weird energy.
A little mad.
I didn't say. Well, yeah, I did.
I've never been so disappointed with someone that I've wanted to punch them in the face. You know, that's
because we haven't hung out very much. No, I wrote too much about him, and then he didn't perform, and it makes me sad. And when I get sad, I get punchy. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's really disappointing. But like Lynch, it's not like all hope is lost. I mean, this is a guy who, even in a season where he had admitted to not having very much strength because of having COVID, he still was okay last year. And then in 2019, I mean, he was a guy in the lineup when he was healthy. It's not like, well, he's never done it before, and I want to, I don't think it was a huge limb to say Hunter Dozier is going to have a nice season in 2021. He's just completely fallen off everything, and I think it would. I don't think it would be the worst idea for him to have a little time just to work on things out of the spotlight. Not that there's a huge spotlight or anything in Kansas City, especially now, but it wouldn't be the worst idea to give him, like I said, 2 or 3 weeks. Just give him an opportunity. Let Kelvin Gutierrez, and the plus side of that, you can kind of see what you have in Gutierrez, which they haven't really had a chance to do at the big league level. He's, I believe, out of options after this season, so you kind of need to make a decision on him, especially with Bobby Witt coming up, in a month and a half. Just going to keep throwing that out there to keep you happy.
I appreciate it.
And
I wish you were saying tomorrow, but that's also fine.
Well, I would bring him up tomorrow because I love Bobby Witt Jr., but the Royals won't.
It's not what the Bitly says.
Yeah, that's true. The Bitly doesn't say that anymore.
No. What I actually had to do was I actually had to redirect bit.ly/the Royals hate Lesky to bit.ly/Lesky hates Bobby Witt to insidethecrown.substack.com.
Perfect.
It's a whole thing.
I appreciate the effort that you put in there. But yeah, so I mean it would give them an opportunity to evaluate Gutierrez as well. That makes sense to me. I don't know. When a guy is so far below his career, it's one of those things that you kind of throw your arms up. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the answer is. But like I said, they invested in him. I don't think they can just let this keep happening. I think they need to figure it out and get it right as quickly as they can.
What you need to do is go to the next game like that guy in Detroit who is absolutely naked in his chair, wearing his sunglasses and his smile, and that is it.
I've been to one game where it's been above like 53 degrees, so I'm going to hold off on that. But I think the next home team might warm up. So
it was 66 degrees in Detroit today.
Nice.
The dude behind him here is in a hoodie.
Look, good for that. Good for that guy. All right. I think we all should strive to be as happy as that guy was today.
Yeah.
I was going to take off my shoes and socks and put my feet on the desk for next segment, but that's too gross for me to do, and that's where I'm at. But
yeah, don't do that.
I'm not going to. There's your Slump Buster suggestion.
I think I think that's a really good idea, and I don't know if I'm going out there on Tuesday or Wednesday. I have to look, but whenever I do, I guarantee you the camera will find me because I will be just like that guy. And I'm even going to go buy a Michigan tank top so I can put it on once people tell me that I've been seen.
I think once you've been seen, there's nothing to hide anymore, and it doesn't really matter. Thank you, Lesky. Sorry about the Royals hating you, and I'll just keep saying the URL over and over so maybe people will go click the newsletter.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
David Lesky, really in a dark place right now.
Understandable.
A violent, sad David Lesky.
Understandable.
You can follow him on Twitter at DBLesky. You can read the Inside the Crown newsletter at insidethecrown.substack.com, bit.ly/The Royals Hate Lesky, bit.ly/Lesky Hates Bobby Witt, and then through all of his links on his Twitter account, which is twitter.com/DBLesky. Should I make a bit.ly for his Twitter account also, just to send people straight there?
Yeah.
bit.ly/Lesky wants to punch
Hunter Dozier in the face.
Yeah.
It's a little long. I'll see if I can figure it out. So you can go to
Lesky's punchy.
bit.ly/Punchy Lesky. Yeah, you should change his @ to Punchy Lesky. I think that might be good.
Lesky, Punchy, Hunty.
Well, I'm going to stop playing with that particular series of sounds and just take a break to be safe.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcast. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
I've heard people go like, "Oh, yeah, what a choke fest." Like, I get whenever a team loses a game that they should lose, calling it a choke festival is so much more lighthearted, so much more fun.
I don't know. That can get pretty dark.
That's a choke festival. Woo!
Yeah.
With Joshua Brisco.
I don't see what's wrong with that, Beards.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I don't think I can talk about the Royals anymore. We gave you a great 30 minutes of Lesky being angry, sad.
Baseball.
But there it is. Here's what we can talk about that all three of us were seeing on Twitter while talking to Lesky and just waiting for this segment to come around to talk about on the radio. Udonis Haslem, who is 40 years old and still a member of the Miami Heat, got his first minutes of the 2021 season today. He came in, he was 2 for 2 from the field, got into an altercation with Dwight Howard.
Yup.
And got 2 technicals in 2 minutes and was summarily ejected.
One of the most efficient games in NBA history. He went 2 for 2 in 2 minutes and got 2 technicals. Doesn't get much more efficient than that.
Beards, you're talking about a weird NBA thing that happened. You have my express written permission to turn on your microphone.
I saw when he checked in the game. Because
Also, by the way, Dwight Howard is a Sixer.
You guys were talking to Lesky, and thankfully the mic wasn't on, because I just went, "Oh my God, it's Udonis Haslem," very loudly, and I'm surprised you all didn't react to that.
I saw some movement, but I'm a professional.
It was shocking. Seeing Haslem anytime is shocking. I don't think he's played 20 games in more than 5 years. I haven't looked. That's not 100% accurate, I'm sure, but I'm also 100% sure it's accurate.
Don't look, Rudy. We're gonna play some Udonis Haslem games. You and Beards can compete. You keep that Basketball Reference page off your screen.
We'll do.
So, how many games do you think he had? This doesn't include this year in real time, I guess. I guess he didn't have a stat this year yet.
Well, yeah, because he hadn't played yet.
How many games do you think he has started since, including the 2015-16 season through the 2019-20 season?
Started.
How many games has he started? What was your cutoff for 20, Beards? For games played? What year did you say?
5 years. 5. I'm sure it's more than that.
This goes back to 6 years ago. So
okay,
counting this year.
Game started.
Give me a number. Throw out a number.
Let's
14.
Go with 5.
2.
Yeah.
He started a game in 2019-20, a game in 18-19.
I figured there would be more token starts in there.
Here are his games played going back to 2015-16. 37, 16, 14, 10, 4.
Yeah.
And now 1. Now, the real game that I like to play. Do you have music for a game?
Oh, you bet I do.
Welcome to another edition of...
How much money did Udonis Haslem make?
It's going to be called Guess the Salary, and we can all do it. But I was going to have you guys do it, like, you guys echo it after.
Guess
all yell guess.
The salary.
No, I'll yell guess, and then you guys both yell guess, and then I'll say the, and you guys both yell the, and then I'll say salary, and
Okay,
you guys both say
sure.
Salary. Woo.
I wonder if people listening to this show think that Rudy is a genuinely stupid man. Just dawned on me. He's not always like this. He's just found sort of an evolution of the Rudy Salazar radio character that I think is doing some questionable things for his brand.
Is this Rudy Salad Bar?
Yes. This is Rudy's Salmonella Bar. This has the lettuce that got recalled, but it's still in the salad bar. It's time for another edition of Guess.
How much money did Udonis Haslem make? Is that not the game we're playing?
Couldn't hear either of your jokes. Beers, that one was your fault because you saw Rudy go back to the microphone and you could see him. He can't see you.
I did it right.
I wasn't paying attention to Rudy.
I wish you would, though, is the big thing is that I wish you would. Career salary for Udonis Haslem, 18 seasons estimated earnings. The crazy thing is in some of the details here, his highest paid year was 2009.
That makes sense.
How much money do you think he made that year?
$12 million.
Oh, let's go with 14.
Give me his full career, and I'll tell you the results of all of them.
full career.
18 seasons.
Let's go with 81. 81 million.
75.
65.
Nice.
His 2009 season was only $7 million.
Oof.
The interesting thing
Never had one of those years.
is that from 10 to 11,
He was also part of the 2000s era.
but from the 10 to 11 stretch, from 2010-11 through this year, this decade, it's all right around the same 3.5, 3, 4, 4.5, 3, 3, 4, 2, 2, 2, 2.5. Like it's right in that range, which is kind of funny because you usually don't like if that's your salary for a decade, you're never in the league that long. Like if you did something to earn all of that, you probably had a bigger payout earlier. Udonis Haslem has just been cashing checks for at least $2 million since 2005.
Yeah.
Not bad work if you can get it.
Good for
How
him,
much
man.
of that will be lost tonight because of his fine with Dwight?
$20,000.
Is that that's probably the actual answer, right?
Probably something around there.
Probably, right? 25 maybe? Do
It's
you guys have any other-
like all of those guys that were on the Cavs roster there when LeBron was there. It was like Dante Jones and Kendrick Perkins. They were literally only there to make hard fouls and then have LeBron pay their fines for them.
Who do you think is paying UD's fine? He's got more
Pat
money
Riley.
than it's out of pocket.
Yeah, it's
writing
Pat
a
Riley.
check.
Because it's not Jimmy Butler.
No,
he was
Jimmy do it.
way.
Butler was Butler was
way.
making his own teammates buy coffee like during the bubble.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler's not picking up anybody's tab.
Butler's not out here giving out money.
Absolutely not.
Tyler Hero and Bam haven't made enough yet. It's Pat Riley.
I think UD's paying his own fine tonight.
Alonzo
I mean,
Mourning.
Did you not see the video? Like even though Pat Riley has a mask on, you
I saw the
can
video.
clearly tell he's smiling.
All right, fair
Yeah.
enough. Maybe he steps in then.
Like there's a video of him walking off and cuts to Pat Riley, and you see the little dimples in the cheeks, and you're like, Pat Riley's happy right now.
My favorite part of the whole experience from this was there was, I think Wob put out the video of when Haslam checked in, it was for a free throw, and he goes and boxes out Dwight kind of hard.
Yeah.
And you can see Dwight smile like, oh, okay, something's about to happen here. He knew.
What was the last year that both of those guys played significant minutes?
2009.
Probably, right? I mean, it's mostly on UD side, I guess, but it's just a
2012
funny
would be
little,
my guess.
little time capsule there. How you guys feeling about the NBA playoffs? Beards, I straight
Doesn't
up,
matter.
I kid you not, I forgot Kemba Walker existed, much less was a Celtic. I saw someone tweet about Kemba Walker, and I was like, oh, I kind of thought he ended up somewhere else.
No, he's there.
You got hurt last night, right?
Yeah, he's still there. Did he get hurt last night?
He came back in the game.
Okay, I didn't see
Okay.
that. But Beards has Kemba Walker and just a bunch of dudes, and Marcus Smart,
And
right?
Tatum.
I thought Tatum got hurt also.
No, Jalen
Jaylen
Brown's
Brown.
out.
I thought Tatum also got hurt.
No, he's had
Tatum,
COVID all year, though.
Yeah.
Okay. The music's over. And that was guess
How much money did
the
Udonis Haslem make?
salary.
Salary.
So you're not totally dead in the water, Beards. It's not great.
Oh, it's not good. I'm not
It's
excited.
not good.
I mean, they're in the playing game.
Rudy's Nuggets have lost Jamal Murray.
And there's the 4 seed.
And Will Barton. Who?
Is
Michael
Martin out
Malone?
too?
Yeah, Will Barton's been out for like the
Oh,
last
okay.
3 weeks.
Oh,
Beards.
yes, that's right.
Now,
That's
Michael
right.
Malone did say today he thinks Will Barton might be back for the playoffs, but certainly not before the playoffs.
Not a
I
whole
don't
lot.
know what
Not a
that
whole lot of
means.
game left.
PJ Dozier's out, which, hey, PJ Dozier is a backup, but has some really good big playoff moments. You were asking me what a PJ Dozier was against the Lakers last year when he had some big moments in the Western Conference
Yeah, I
Finals.
still don't know. Can
He's
he play
a-
third base?
He's a good backup. I mean, probably better than Hunter
You think
Dozier.
Lesky wants to punch him in the face?
Probably not. He's also out.
DeAndre Ayton is out for my
Starting
Suns
JaVale
tonight. I have
McGee.
Suns. And the Suns are a 2 seed who are going to end up playing the winner of the Lakers-Warriors play-in game. And that
At the current rate things are going.
sucks. That sucks,
Yeah.
bleep, dude.
Can I say one semi-positive thing about that if it's the Lakers?
No.
Yeah,
Anthony
sure.
Davis and LeBron James are coming off their injuries. And who knows how healthy they are.
Beards,
Anthony Davis is made of glass.
I could send Lesky to the Lakers team hotel and let him just punch away, and I would not feel anything
that's
other
the
than
small good thing that you can say about that is maybe they aren't actually all that healthy,
and they only win in 6.
I mean, hopefully not.
Like that's. I would rather see the Suns play the Nuggets, Blazers, Mavs easy.
Yeah.
And probably the Clippers. Than the Lakers, not than the Warriors, I think, right? This sucks. Our NBA teams were having such sort of Beards not so much, I guess.
Seasons.
But we were having such
Like,
fun
us
seasons.
too?
It was a good start, and then just COVID and injuries.
Yeah.
Okay, excuses, sure.
The Celtics.
Me and Josh were talking about how electric like a playoff matchup would be.
Boston had
So
the most
exciting.
time off by COVID out of anybody by like 30 days or more.
Yeah, you guys should have been well rested.
Which is why Tatum needs an inhaler before every game now.
Well, he should have, I guess,
Maybe
microchips.
follow protocols.
Yeah, that's
Stop
probably.
going out and acting like heathens.
We're probably not going to regret that characterization. Beards pulled out the inhaler card. Like, I feel like we should have just gone to a break as soon as Beards invoked the... Don't raise your eyebrows at me. I'm trying to throw to break, Beards. I don't need your snide comments. I'm going to send Lesky into the control room and just see what happens.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810WHB.com. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Beards, ask your serious NBA questions. We have to wrap up the show tonight. I will say this also. We're done here at 8 because we got a special for you here coming up right after us here on Sports Radio 810. The Daily Wager NFL season preview show from ESPN Radio will be airing from 8 to 10 tonight. And then tomorrow, we're live for 4 hours, 6 to 10. We'll have Mick Schaefer of 41 Action News to wrap up the week as we usually do. Matt Verder will join us at 7. We have a bleep ton of Top Shot to open. That's tomorrow. Beards, quick, ask your NBA question.
Are we confident in anybody in the NBA to make it to the finals?
Quick, this is why it's so depressing with the Nuggets, because this really was the year where you could have made an argument that maybe they could have won it.
It's why I'm optimistic about Phoenix on some level, I guess.
Like, there's nobody in the East I'm 100% certain of now.
I know it's not the Celtics.
I feel like you can draw the cutoff line at the East. Like, if the Hawks, Heat, Knicks, Celtics, Hornets, Pacers did anything, I would be surprised. But that gives you 3 teams. I think you know the Eastern Conference Finals are going to be among those 3 teams. In the West, who knows? It's just whose knees and hamstrings are working, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
But isn't that the case for all of us?
Certainly for me.
If you tweak an ankle, mess up a knee, get punched in the face by David Lesky out of nowhere, who knows what it's going to be?
Is that what happened to PJ Dozier?
I still don't know who that is. We'll talk to you at 6 tomorrow. Bye, Mom.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.